In a world where legends rise and fall with every punch, where the roar of the crowd fades, but the stories live on. This is where those stories are told. This is Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From the blood, the sweat, and the glory, to the controversies, comebacks, and knockouts, we go behind the ring, no fluff, no hype, and definitely no BS. Just the truth behind the fight game. And we've been doing it for over 2 decades. A podcast pioneer, now a Hall of Famer.
Great. What's that ego gonna be like?
And next, the comeback kid.
Wait, isn't he like 90 or something?
Shut up, he'll hear you. The reigning, defending, undisputed, heavyweight champion of boxing broadcasting. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And it's on now.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. The She Show. She shows. Whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by, you guessed it, my book, Tom Molineaux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now where you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to Amazon.com. Oh, wait. I'll tell you, there's more, because if you go to BillyCBoxing.com, we have a special going on, $12 a copy. Just click the link. I think it's going through the end of the year for the holidays, so take advantage of that. And don't forget, when you go to BillyCBoxing.com, make sure you follow us and subscribe to all the stuff that we're on. Give a shout out to the guys that are in the chat room right now. And we got as usual, we got a busy. I got to learn how to speak. That would change everything, right? We got a busy show scheduled for you today. As usual, I'm going to give you my thoughts on today's main topic. I want to give you my thoughts on this whole DAZN Turki Alalshikh bait and switch on the pay-per-views. I'll be breaking down and giving you my prediction on the Chris Eubank Jr. Conor Benn rematch, which they're having for some reason. I don't know. There's another fight on that card I'm going to break down as well. Also coming up later, I'm going to continue with the Billy C rankings. This week, we're doing the welterweight division. Now, remember, we're combining the welterweight and super welterweight or junior middleweight. So I'll be giving you those. And we got some, boxing news we're going to update you on. We got a great guest that's going to be scheduled to join us. A middleweight prospect, undefeated, Dante Kirkman. But first, let's get you caught up on some of the news. Virgil Ortiz and Ortiz-Lubin in the fight. It kind of went just as we said it would. Virgil Ortiz improved to 24-0 with 22 of his wins coming by knockout when he took care of Ortiz-Lubin in less than 2 rounds, stopping him. Lubin drops to 27-3 with 18 of his wins coming by knockout. The official time was 1 minute and 30 seconds of the second round. My thoughts on the fight was, I thought Ortiz has looked much better. I thought he was a rough fighter. I said this last week when we were breaking it down. I thought he was kind of a rough around the edges kind of a fighter. His last 2 fights prior to Ortiz-Lubin showed me something. I believe he possesses, more than just attack and punching power type skill sets. He showed patience in his last 2 fights. He showed me some accuracy in this fight, breaking down Lubin. It didn't take him long. He also wasn't messing around. And even his corner was kind of thinking that he was going a little too quick. But as it turned out, it worked out for him. Lubin did connect a couple of shots. Didn't seem to faze him at all. But nonetheless, everybody's looking ahead towards the potential rematch, or I'm sorry, the potential big match between Ortiz and Boots Ennis. But before I get to that, I just want to mention a couple of fights on the undercard. Well, one fight specifically was the heavyweight fight. Joshua Edwards, he improved to 5-0 with 5 knockouts when he took care of his opponent, Zeno Voris, at 2 minutes and 34 seconds of the third round. Now, I don't know if you watched this fight, but it was a weird one, man. On paper, it looked like it was going to be a decent fight because, Edwards was undefeated. When I broke down this fight, I told you guys that Edwards had not even fought a fighter in his first 5 fights or his first 4 fights going into this one without with a losing record. They all had winning records. Voris, on the other hand, went into the fight 5-1, and he didn't have one fighter on his record with a winning record except the guy who beat him. When you watch this fight, I kind of saw what we can potentially see what we're going to get out of Edwards as he progresses and becomes a better and better fighter. But I was shocked at this Zenovoris cat because he, first of all, he was acting weird. I'm shocked that the doctor, the pre-fight doctor, did not give him or prevent him from fighting. It seemed to me that he was acting strange. He was very sluggish. Even his speech was sluggish. And if you watch the fight, you saw the doctor, the ringside doctor, try to stop this fight several times. And he was pointing to this little teeny cut that was hardly bleeding. You could hardly see it, at least from the television. I don't know what it looked like live, but he kept having a doctor look at it. And the fighter's response to the doctor was awfully strange. And finally, the referee stopped the fight. So we didn't get much of a chance to look at Edwards, but I can tell that he's going to be one to keep an eye on. A little short for today's heavyweights, but anyway, excuse me. Another fight on that card I just want to talk about. Robin Safar in the cruiserweight division improved to 19-0 with 13 knockouts when he beat Derek Miller with a unanimous decision. Miller drops his first fight of his career. He's now 18-1. Listen, joining us right now, and I'm going to tell you, Dave, that your video looks a little grainy. I'm going to bring you on. This is my man, Coach Dave from Coach's Corner, and he joins us right now. Yeah, we need a little more light to see you there, Dave. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, guys. Having a little trouble with the Wi-Fi here.
Okay. Well, if you want, you can it looks like you're getting interrogated, but if you want, we can roll with that. You can work on the lights. I wanted to talk a little about the Ortiz-Lubin fight, not so much the fight itself, but what's transpiring now with the potential Boots Ennis and Ortiz fight. After the fight, they were both, we're going to fight. And then within 24 hours, we're getting the old, we don't need each other. And rumor has it that they're going to be facing other people. Ortiz potentially facing Errol Spence Jr. And the main name that's popping up for Boots Ennis is Danny Garcia. They wanted to marinate. What's up with that, man?
I mean, look, I think let's go with Boots Ennis first, okay? I think we're throwing out the name Danny Garcia because that's a Philly thing right there, and we're going to sell a lot of tickets. We're going to have it in Philly. We're going to have 2 sides of Philadelphia rooting for, one for Ennis, one for Garcia. I think Garcia gets a good payday there. That's where I think with that. The Errol Spence Virgil Ortiz fight, I don't like that fight at all because I don't know what Spence is going to bring. And you need to be careful with Errol Spence still. I don't think we've seen the end of him. I think he can still fight and he can punch. I definitely don't really like that fight for Ortiz coming right back after the fight with Lubin. I think that's a dangerous fight to take. I think It's a good fight on the television end to sell it, but I don't think it's the greatest fight for Ortiz to take at that moment. I
Hey,
think it's
Dave, why don't you see if you can get some light on you so we can see you?
okay.
But in the meantime, I'm gonna comment. First of all, uh, there's no reason. I mean, forget about. I disagree about Spence. I think you're saying that he's washed up, but he's a dangerous fighter. Okay, I'll give you that, but it doesn't a fight. The Danny Garcia fight, or even the other name that was being mentioned was a potential Charlo showdown with Bruce
Right.
Willis. But the thing is that neither one of them need to marinate this fight anymore. You see, this is my problem with the sport today. This fight is ready right now. We don't need a title. I've heard people say, well, it's got to be for a title. No, it doesn't, because there's too many titles as it is. These guys are both, you can make the argument that neither one of them have really fought any top opposition. Fighting each other would be a good test for both of them, and it shouldn't ruin the guy who comes out with the L. It shouldn't ruin his career. I'm not sold on Boots. Boots looks great against the people that he's fought, and I've seen Ortiz fight similar opposition, but I've also seen improvements with Ortiz. I like the fight. I love the fight.
I think I'm going back to what you're saying, and I'm gonna probably jump off here to get a better lighting with you in the gym. I like the Ennis Ortiz fight. I think that's a good fight right there. I think you're correct about that. That fight needs to be made now. It makes sense number wise. It makes sense from the television and the promotional aspect side. I just, it's boxing being boxing again, Billy.
Yeah, well,
You know,
this is where they listen. You try and get some light and come back on, because
I got you.
we got to. All right, sounds good. That's my man, Coach Dave. He'll be back in a minute. Yeah, he's saying what is true. That's what they do in boxing. What I'm saying is we don't need that crap anymore. Everybody's always complaining boxing's not where it should be. Boxing, when's it going to get back to where it was? Blah, blah, blah. Well, when you have fights like this that the fans are chomping at the bit for, and the fighters need each other. I mean, let's face it, nothing against either of these fighters, except for the fact that they've both been carefully moved. They've been carefully matched. They're put in with guys that their side knows, or pretty much knows 100% that they're going to win this fight, and they put them in. And now you fast forward both their careers to where they are right now, and they're both undefeated. They're both on a upswing, and now you have another, two guys that are similar, same weight class, both young, both undefeated. This is when they got to fight. But the problem with the sport of boxing is that they'll make the fans wait, and then you'll have other fights in between, and then there'll be something else to prevent it. And before you know it, a couple of years go by, and then the fight happens, and we don't get to see. And there'd always be the argument who was a better fighter, whatever. But what we end up is we don't get to see the guys in their primes. A great example was Mayweather-Pacquiao. We saw that fight 5 years after it should have taken place. And why? Well, because everybody was being so super cautious that they didn't want to do it. But we'll talk a little more with Coach about that when he gets back on here. But with some other news I wanted to mention, Frank Warren. I kind of was shocked. I saw, he's celebrating his 45th year as a promoter. I kind of thought it might have been a little more, to be honest. He's been around a long time, but 45 years as a promoter. He's putting on a Magnificent Seven card. It's a series, and it's taking place Saturday in England on January 24th. And the main event is Moses Ituma against Jermaine Franklin. Now, here's a perfect example. Moses Ituma was a guy calling out Usyk. He wins one good fight against in his last fight. He blows out a guy that many people wonder, how that happened with Dillian White. And now all of a sudden, people are putting him on a pedestal, acting like, he's the man, blah, blah, blah. And, he turned down a fight with Frank Sanchez as a elimination fight to get a mandatory title shot. He turned that down, and now he's taking on Jermaine Franklin. Now, Franklin, he's only been beaten twice. He's 24-2. But he's not a dangerous fighter. This guy is very similar to what he has fought, what Ituma has fought. And this is exactly my point that I was just talking about with Ortiz and Boots Ennis. Here we got an opportunity. Okay, Moses Ituma, hot heavyweight. Put him in against somebody that's in the conversation. But speaking of conversation, let me finish our thought. And we got my man Dave back. Oh, Dave, there you are. Now everybody.
Oh, there we go, Billy. How you doing
geez.
today, buddy?
Hey, you're doing good now that we can see you. People thought it was like my alter ego or something. But anyway, just to finish the thought process about the Ortiz Boots Ennis fight. I agree with you. I know that that's what boxing does. But the problem is, and you and I have talked about it, and, the truth of the matter is, and people always say to me about getting boxing back, how can we get boxing back in mainstream, and can it ever go back to the way it was? The answer is most likely no. But what we could do is we could definitely give it a shot in the arm by having these kinds of fights at this stage, Dave. I know that they want to marinate it, promote it a little more, build it up a little more, but come on, it's for the taking right now. And if it's a good fight, it sets up a rematch. Why shouldn't they do it now?
I agree. I mean, I think the marinate can backfire on you. You know that as well as I do, okay? Why are we marinating on this fight? There's no reason to marinate on Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz. It's a good fight right now. They're both hot. They're both undefeated. We can make the fight today. There's no reason for them. Look, there's no benefit in Boots Ennis fighting Danny Garcia. And I like Danny Garcia, and I like Boots Ennis. Don't get me wrong. That's a fight that makes no sense on Ennis's part. People are going to say, you beat an older Danny Garcia. You should beat him. There's no question about that. But flip side, if Danny Garcia somehow finds lightning in a bottle one night and beats Ennis, then what happens there? Right now we have a whole nother situation. I'm with you. We need to make better fights right now, today. No more, okay, we're going to wait one more. We're going to wait one more. And on the flip side of Ortiz and Spence, I think, that's a safe fight for Spence coming back. But it's a fight that makes no sense for Ortiz. It doesn't. I mean, the fight is Ennis and Ortiz today. That's, to me, the fight right there. So I kind of agree with you that we need to be making better fights to keep fan base engaged. You and I have talked about this, and I don't get it, but, I do get it. Like, we know why these fights are happening and other fights are getting pushed off.
Well, the whole thing is if we got to see fights, and I'm using Ortiz and Boots as a prime example because they're fresh in everybody's mind. They're both hot off of blowout victories, right? A week or two apart. So here's what happens. You got two guys like Ortiz and Boots that are climbing the ladder together, same weight class, both young fighters, both undefeated fighters. And what's become the norm over the last decade or so is that these guys don't fight each other. They keep fighting the same level of opposition, the same Ortiz-Lubins, etc., where they know that they're going to get a win, and they pound their chest and they say they're the best and blah, blah, blah. Now, if we change that narrative a little bit, and we start making them like they do in England, you know how I feel about those guys, and where they're not afraid to fight each other, and we change the narrative here in the United States, and you put two guys exactly like these two, Ortiz and Boots, in the same ring at this stage, it's a win-win for both of the fighters. Yes, one of them is going to move on with a W, and one is going to suffer their first loss of their career. But that shouldn't end the career. That should actually help whichever fighter comes up on the losing end to go back to the drawing board and see what they did wrong. If they have a decent team around them, they will be able to identify it and correct it, and they will be better for it. By fighting lesser opposition time in and time out, the fighters aren't getting a chance to get better. I mean, you know how it is when guys go to spar. You go, okay, hey, Mr. Sparring Partner, today we want you to work on attacking the body of our fighter, and you expect him to work the body for the fight. Well, that's not really getting. Yeah, you're getting some work, but that's not the same as fighting a real fighter. You know what I mean?
I agree, and you know what? We go back to the thing here, what you're mentioning, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. You make a great point, right? So you got both undefeated fighters. You have an East Coast, West Coast type promotion here. I don't think a loss negates anybody's career. I think if you put a good performance and you're fighting an elite team, fighting an elite fighter, and you go out there and that fight is close, you still got to win, because now you've challenged yourself to be in there with one of the best in your weight class or at that time in your division. So people in the boxing world say, let me take a look at this. If we go back, I'll give you a quick name and you'll remember this name, Austin Trout. He had about 3 or 4 fights in a row. He fought Cotto, he fought Canelo. I'm missing somebody in there, but he had like 3 fights in a row. He had losses against 3 top fighters in the weight class. That doesn't take anything away from him as a fighter. He was willing to step in and not turn anything down. And, he had a pretty decent career if you look record-wise and who he fought. So I don't think a loss hurts you. If it's nobody likes to lose, Billy, right? We don't like to lose, right? You've been in the game. You've managed. You've promoted. Look, but a good loss can definitely elevate your career.
100%. A lot of fighters begin their career with a good showing against somebody, And who was the other fighter out of D.C.? I'm going blank here. Same thing. He was a champion, and he fought. He got a lot of fights, and he was fighting. Always in good shape. I can't do his name, but the same thing here is going on with Moses Atuma. He's calling out everybody, and then he signs against Jermaine Franklin. No disrespect to Jermaine Franklin, but that's not the level fighter that Ituma is saying that he is.
No.
So again, he's taken a less.
I agree with you. And if I'm Ituma's people, I'm like, I get it. You're trying, but Jermaine Franklin's. I gotta love the guy. He comes off his couch. He's gonna fight. We know why he's fighting. He's probably not in shape. And, Ituma should go through him. But if you're Ituma, you're like, why do I want to fight Jermaine Franklin? I'm calling out other names out there. There's got to be other young and up-and-coming fighters, not only in the U.S., but in Europe, that he can fight.
He turned down a title elimination bout with Frank Sanchez. What does that tell you?
Yeah, well, I know Frank was calling him out.
No, they had a contract. He refused. He did not take the contract. And he picks Franklin, and that's a main event in England in January.
Well, I can tell you from experience why he turned down Frank Sanchez. That style of fighter. Frank is an awkward heavyweight who's fast and powerful. He's coming off being injured, and he has something to prove to get back in the game. I don't know if I would have took the fight on Tuma's part with Sanchez, just because I don't think he's ready for a guy like Sanchez.
Oh, but he's calling out Usyk. So this is my point. No, you're making my point for me, Dave.
Right.
But the thing is that you can't call out Usyk, arguably the best heavyweight out there. Okay, he's the undisputed champion, and then turn down a fight against Frank Sanchez. And I agree with you. I don't think Ituma is as good as Ituma thinks he is. I think he's got a lot of potential, but he needs to fight, some better opposition. I just don't know if Jermaine Franklin is that guy, and it's certainly not a main event fight, that's for sure. But hey, listen, one of my main topics today is the bait and switch that appears to have taken place between DAZN and you got to sprinkle in Turki Alalshikh there, because if you recall, Dave, Turki Alalshikh said on television, it was on one of these big fights, that there'll be no more pay-per-views beginning in November. And then sure as shit, DAZN announces their new ultimate package, $45 a month, $44.99, which guarantees more than 185 fight cards a year and 12 or more pay-per-views a year. That's not telling me there's no more pay-per-views. What's your thought on that? Is it do you think it was planned that way all along, or is it just, fleecing boxing fans continuously?
I think one thing about DAZN prior to this whole thing with Turki Alalshikh, they're a big platform. They're showing a lot of boxing. They're global. So they're showing more boxing in Europe and overseas than we actually see. But the hardcore fans are really watching in with that. So I think, Eddie Hearn, being the businessman that he is, he's got more of a platform with out there. So I think he's being driven more for overseas area, that England market, London, out there, where he has a bigger foothold in the boxing. I also think it goes for people want to be able to use that app on their phone, so they got to buy into it. They seem to be like the hardcore boxing fans could watch boxing 4 or 5 times a week. I just think that he is got a little more of a stronghold than what Turki Alalshikh tried to prove coming in. And I think he just kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit, Turki Alalshikh, with those statements that there's going to be no more pay-per-views. There's too much money involved, Philly, right? Like, if you really think about it, I know from our end, we're constantly paying for boxing, right? Constantly, because we want to watch it over and over again. But these guys are making too much money on the pay-per-view to let it slide.
Yeah, but a lot of them don't. That's the whole thing. I saw a post. First of all, look, I know this from my own experience with this very show, but people have a tendency, especially when things are streamed, okay, that they don't want to pay for it. It's not about the money. I've heard people say, "Oh, well, if the pay-per-views were $20, we wouldn't have a problem doing it." I don't know. I think that people wouldn't have a problem paying a subscription, right? A service, but get all the fights. Not pay for a service and then not get the fights. In this case, DAZN went the back end. They went through the back door, because we were already paying a subscription, and then we were told that we weren't going to get pay-per-views anymore. Now we're getting a raised subscription, and they're saying it includes pay-per-views. So, in other words, if they didn't use the word pay-per-view and they said, okay, our monthly price now is going to be, $45 or whatever, it includes all the fights. I think that would have been a better marketing approach than saying it's going to be $45 a month now, and that's going to include 12 or more pay-per-views.
Yeah, I just, you know what? It's just, it comes down. I know where you're going with it. I agree. I mean, if I know I'm going to pay one price and get all the fights, yeah, I'm in. But if I'm going to get nickel-dimed every other time, because as well as I do, some of those pay-per-views, they're not worth all of it. You get get 2 fights a year, the mega fights that you want to see. But I kind of agree with you there. I want one pricing, because, I'm watching boxing as much as I can. And now that it's not on mainstream, ESPN dropped it. We're not going to see Top Rank on ESPN. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah, we need to be able to have, an affordable app to watch it.
I think that DAZN, first of all, I want to just make a comment. Dax made a comment here in the chat room. He says, we were buying $50 pay-per-views in the 80s for Tyson mismatches. At some point, it's the fans that are allowing this. And Dax hit it right on the head. because I've been saying for 15 years that all the fans have to do is say, no, don't do it. Don't subscribe. Don't buy the pay-per-views. All they have to do is say no and do that for a couple of fights, and it'll be revamped. Let's face it, the fights that we do have to pay for aren't even worth pay-per-view. I just believe, first of all, the DAZN, I think, is a great thing. It really brings all level of fight cards to everybody on the planet that has a computer. Right. I love it. It's the future is now. The networks can't compete, especially how they do the DAZN and the production. How it could be subbed out. I mean, it's not all the DAZN people doing it for every event. So it's a great concept and it's a great model. But this latest thing is they shot themselves in the foot. I think the term, and hear what I'm saying, Dave, I think the term pay-per-view should have been eliminated. In other words, they could have said, hey, listen, we got starting January, we got our new subscription. It's $45 a month. It's going to cover every fight that we have on the DAZN. Bam. Not, hey, it's going to cover all the regular schmuck fights, and then all of a sudden we're going to have sprinkle in a dozen pay-per-views. No, it shouldn't be pay-per-view, So that's where I think they might have made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you, but, the DAZN also, they're trying to lure you into their platform with soccer and all the other sports that they do, through boxing. And, I guess Turki Alalshikh still wants to keep his hands dipped somehow in this, because I guess he's still looking to put these big fights together. But from the platform end of the DAZN, they could have worded it where it was like one price for all on the boxing end of it. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that they want you to watch all the sports, but boxing fans are a different breed. I mean, I watch some other sports. I'm aside from boxing, I'm football and baseball. But most football, baseball, boxing, or football, baseball, basketball, hockey fans, a lot of them don't watch boxing, and a lot of boxing fans don't watch other sports. So I mean, it's kind of crazy, but
real quick on that, Billy, what are your thoughts on this? So you made a comment of most fans don't watch boxing. The hardcore fans like us, we'll watch it wherever we can get a chance. We go back to years ago. There's no mainstream to get the other fans anymore. There's no CBS, there's no NBC, there's no ABC, there's no more ESPN now, or even HBO or Showtime, where you were able to watch a big fight if you had the subscription. You didn't have to go for the pay-per-view.
But Dave, I don't mean to interrupt you, but TV's cut the cord. I mean, that's the whole movement. There is no more CBS the way we knew it. Yeah, right. CBS airs, the football games and stuff, basketball, et cetera, but there's no more network like that. It's unlimited. It's just content now, so the whole terminology is changing, and the way the marketing people are doing it, they are focusing. Listen, you can ask. Dax is in this chat room right now. My man, Coach K. They've been part of the show for a long time, and you could go back and watch a show from 15 years ago that we did, even more. And I'm telling you, and Dax will back me up. I predicted on this show that you'd be able to select the sports that you wanted to watch and pay for it, right? Like when computers were coming out and internet was streaming. And that's, in a sense, what it has evolved into. And it's going to be even more fine-tuned over the next several years. So, it's making the right fights is the start. But, who determines what the right fights are? When you get a guy all the way up, you build him up to 30-0, and he's fought nobody for 30 fights, and now he fights the other guy for 30. If you want a solid boxing, pool of fighters, you need to challenge them sooner. That's all.
Yeah, listen, you and I have talked about this. I'm on the same page as you there. For me, there comes a time that you got to cut the umbilical cord for a fighter and say, it's time to sink or swim. What do we got here? What do we got? Because if you're going to challenge to be in that championship level, at some point, you need to know, not only as a fighter, but the team around him, management need to know if you belong there.
Hey, Dave, I got an interesting thing. One of my listeners, my man Joel, was asking me last week about the FBI investigations into the fight fixing for the UFC, and I know you're into MMA a lot more than me, but he sent me some stuff, and I just wanted to bring it up and get your thoughts. Last week, Dana White confirmed that there was some controversial betting that was going on pertaining to the Isaac Dogarian's fight with the UFC 110 out of Vegas, and he was fighting against Yadir Davali, and apparently they were informed, and Dana White said that he was informed about this fight, that the betting action was kind of strange, and they were trying to ask if the Dogarians was hurt or injured and all this stuff because of all of a sudden the movement. And White said, and I quote, "We called the fighter," and his lawyer said, "What's going on?" This is the other side calling Dana White. Says, "We called the fighter and his lawyer and we asked what's going on. There's some weird betting action going on in your fight. Are you hurt? Do you owe anybody money? Has anyone approached you?" And the fighter said, "No, absolutely not. I'm going to kill this guy." And what ended up happening was a bizarre first round submission. They checked it out again, and there's allegations now being brought up that there's been several attempts to fix these UFC fights. What's your thoughts on this? Have you heard this?
I have not heard this, but reading lately with all these scandals in sport, in the sports betting, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, who's to tell? You're watching, and I'm still learning the MMA as I'm working with some of the strikers, so I'm not very well versed on some of the technique on the ground, but who's to say you put yourself in a position to get submitted in the first round and there's prop bets and everything else on you at that point, or you're being paid by someone to fall down, right?
Right.
We've heard it in boxing, right? We saw it in movies, in Jake LaMotta, where he's approached by the commissioner because the odds changed, the money line changed, and they questioned him in the Billy Fox fight, and he threw the fight. So, Billy, I think it's the lure of easy money sometimes with these guys, and they are in situations where maybe they're not financially stable or they're not making enough money. And the other factor is we put it out there with betting lines, whereas years ago, okay, you had to go through a bookie or maybe somebody who had a lineup, but now it's everywhere. Pick up your phone. If you were fighting tomorrow, Billy, there'd be a line on you fighting somewhere.
Well, that's the ironic thing about Pete Rose. I mean, Major League Baseball, their partner is a betting site, but
Right.
And Dana White said, listen, he's been open about it, that they're going to basically prosecute anybody that they find. And that brings me, it's a segue into this. My man Mike Silver, he's a great author. We're going to have him on. He just put out a new book, When in Doubt, Stop the Fight. And I was talking to him today, and he was bringing up some issues pertaining to the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act. Now, basically, in a nutshell, this is what Dana White's Zuffa Boxing has proposed to try and get, boxing like a league, like UFC, and there's, several things. Well, there's been a lot of discussion going on, pros and cons, and you've been hearing a lot of the promoters. I know Eddie Hearn has been very vocal about it. So has Oscar De La Hoya, and they're all coming down saying that if they change it, it's going to ruin boxing and blah, blah, blah. But, from what I understand, that's not maybe the case, because what it appears, some of these changes is that, the league, yes, it would guarantee fighters a certain amount of purses and stuff similar to the UFC. But one thing that you don't hear about is the UFC also shares the revenue share, like with merchandising and other advertising and stuff that fighters today don't get. So I think that if this happened and they made the change, I think that this could work, this league, but it would have to start from the ground up. They're not going to get the existing stars, but I think that could help us exactly what we're talking about, making these fighters fight each other. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, look, I was part of TCL. I got to coach for the New York team with Ryan O'Leary out of Champs Boxing in New Rochelle. It keeps people relevant. It's keeping them paychecks in their pockets. So now if you take a fighter, and I'll give you you look at Rashidi Ellis from the Boston Butchers, who's now going to fight, probably get a big fight somewhere. He reinvented himself through TCL, having some flashy knockouts, being relative on social media, and he's able to make a payday in between. I think we got to keep fighters busy. I like the idea. I think you get matched up with who you get matched up with. There's no picking and choosing. You're going to fight who they tell you to fight, and everybody has something to fight for at this point. Everybody has something to prove because they're trying to get up to the next level. They're trying to be relative. They want to continue to make money. You know as well as I do, fighters fight too far and few between, or they don't get a big fight, or they get a big fight, they spend the money, then they're looking for a fight again. So I think it's good. It keeps the sport active as long as we match the fights properly. I like the concept. I like the team concept.
No, I like the team concept. This idea would be more like the UFC, where it's a league.
Yeah.
And, there'll be governed salaries. It's not, one fighter gets his.
I think from a coach and a fighter standpoint, I think we have some control. We have one sanctioning organization that's under control, right? So now if you're fighting for this league, right, we can go like the NFL, right? You don't say, I want to play Cleveland next Sunday when they're playing the Jets or whoever, right? You can say, no, I'm not playing them next week. Give me another team.
Right.
Now you have a league concept, and they come down and say, okay, Billy, you're fighting this guy. Okay, that's it. Whatever.
And that's what we need. And the thing is they want to eliminate the belts. They want to have, just one champion and stuff like that. And they won't have sanctioning fees because it's a league, right? They don't charge you a sanctioning fee. They don't charge you a Super Bowl trophy fee. You're actually getting paid more if you make it to that. It's an incentive. It's the same thing with the UFC. So why do you suppose, so many promoters and really the sanctioning bodies are so against this, making a big stink? Because they're losing their clutches in the sport. It's like politics. They're blaming the other side for doing something that they're currently doing. And that's the way I see it.
I like that. I mean, what you say to me, look, we come out of the same old school type generation. To me, winning a belt is winning a belt. And I don't want to go through all the sanctioning bodies and say anything, but you know how I feel. Look, to me, it's one belt. The WBC, the green belt, that's the belt. You got 400 belts out there. We don't play for, like you just said, 10 Super Bowls. We play for one. You win the Super Bowl, it means something. So
even the WBC, Dave, okay, if that's the most valuable belt, I'm not going to argue with that at all. But, if you don't play in their rules, you're not even ranked. And let's face it, as well as I do, how do you get your name on those rankings, Dave? Come on. Are you fighting your way up the ladder, or are you actually, somebody's putting something in one hand to use the pen to write your name in the spot.
You're getting a little push, that.
Okay. And maybe by doing a league like this, we'll eliminate that. The only thing that would take place if the league theory worked would be time. In other words, you'd have to recruit a whole new young generation of fighters, which I think is the best part of this, because now you're bringing up those young fighters and you're matching them up and with their levels. And when you get that guy that rises to the top in that division, whichever division it is, you know damn well that he's going to be a quality fighter. Not like what we're getting today. We're getting guys that are all rising up, but you don't know who the quality fighter is. And then a lot of times the team will say, well, they're still developing after they have a title, you know? Right. So,
and they want to save it for a while even. But I agree, going back to you, I think it becomes like a minor league system. I think there's enough fighters out there that you can kind of fill the gap. You will have to have maybe a little picky and choosy, because you do want to get some sort of a quality fighter, somebody that's going to rise, take good fights, you know, maybe has a good ceiling. But I think there's enough fighters out there that'll want to be a part of it to get a shot. Because
to get the shot, you just hit it on the head. I mean, you're in a gym. You see fighters come through the door. How many times do you see a fighter that gets frustrated because they're not getting an opportunity because maybe they don't have enough money behind them, or maybe they don't know the right people, but they're working just as hard. They're showing up, you know, for their workout just as much, maybe more, and they don't have an opportunity. Maybe this opens the door for those guys, and we get more diamonds in the rough, you know?
I agree. And then you know as well as I do, you've been around the gyms in your life. Man, you know there's good fighters hiding in some of these gyms.
100%.
You know,
100%. Half of them don't even get an opportunity because maybe they're shy, maybe they don't know anybody. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, hey, listen, Dave, I really appreciate you joining us today. I got one other thing I wanted to ask you before, and you'll be able to come back next week too.
Sure.
But it seems now, I don't know how true this is, but Mike Coppinger is a pretty reputable writer.
Yep.
And he's reporting that Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul are looking like they're going to be fighting in December. If this happens, I got nothing but respect for Jake Paul, because I don't see Jake Paul standing a chance against Anthony Joshua. What's your thoughts on that potential matchup?
First of all, I agree with you. Look, we talked about Jake Paul, you and I, a couple of times when we were in person, right? And look, everybody knows, well, let's say the boxing people know Jake doesn't have the experience yet, but he's training hard. I got to give it to him. He's got money. He does not have to get out of bed to do this. He don't have to put his name in with a guy like Anthony Joshua. But you know what? I give him a lot of credit. On the flip side, look, everybody's jumping on the Jake Paul train, right? They want to get paid, right? So look, the fight with Gervonta Davis fell out, which made no sense whatsoever to me, except Gervonta was going to get a payday. Okay, makes no sense.
He messed up his payday, right?
Yeah, he messed up his payday. But like even on Jake Paul's side, like, okay, Jake's trying to be relevant. Why are you fighting Gervonta Davis? He's not even close to being where you want to be in the weight class, and it's a meaningless fight if you're trying to be a credible fighter. Now, I've heard a lot of names get thrown in there. I heard Tommy Morrison's grandson, Kenzie Morrison, who's been actively campaigning on social media to fight Jake Paul, which that might not make bad sense because he did hold a small WBC belt at one time. He is more in Jake's weight class, and it kind of makes sense to kind of promote it from the history of the dad. Joshua, man, if he fights like he did the last couple of fights, he's rough. And I can't see Jake Paul taking some of those punches from that kid. And I don't see a way that Jake can kind of Jake keeping Joshua at bay. I don't see it happening.
No,
And
I don't see the fight happening, to be honest with you. The fight that Tank Davis was supposed to be, I know Nate Diaz stepped in to fight. Listen, I would be impressed if Jake Paul fought any sanctioning body's top 10 light heavyweight or cruiserweight, whatever weight division.
well, Billy, I'm gonna throw this in. I'm gonna leave it to you. This is a little self promotion here, right? So I have a kid, Vincenzo Carita, out of Boston, and I talked to you about him. He's 36-0-1 as a cruiserweight. He's held a WBC, ABF, NABF. He is ranked 9th. He is actually ranked higher on BoxRec right now than Jake Paul. Vinny is a court officer in Boston. He's a little older, and he's a vet. Does the fight make sense? Yeah, because Vinny could punch a little bit. And you know what? It's a selling promotional point. It'll never happen because, Jake's looking for a bigger name. But either way, if Jake beats him, kind of gives him credibility because of his pedigree. And I think they could promote it. But Joshua, he's a big guy. You know that. Even if he's holding back a little bit, Billy, and he hits Jake Paul, he's going to starch him.
I know. I tell you, I'll give Jake Paul a lot of credit if he does it, man. I really will. But listen, my man, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk during the week, and we'll get this thing set up. All right?
Oh yeah, Billy. I appreciate the opportunity, and you know what, my man Billy C out there, he's a dying breed in the sport of boxing, a wealth of knowledge. So keep rocking on, buddy. And
hey, don't mention the word dying around me. I get a little jumpy. You know what I mean? So, but anyway,
right about that, bud.
Listen, my man, I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you later. Keep going strong, Papa.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
That's Coach Dave from Coach's Corner podcast. I had a great time with him on there, and look to see him here a little more often. But before he had come on, we had talked about a fight card that Frank Warren was talking about in England. Isaac Zatuma was the main event, taking on Jermaine Franklin. But and honestly, Moses Zatuma, at 13-0 and 11 knockouts, theoretically, he shouldn't be headlining a card, in my opinion. And for a guy that turned down Frank Sanchez, and a guy that also, just wasn't. He was calling out Usyk, but he wasn't taking any other fighters to pick Franklin. Just makes me wonder. But the co-main event on that card is really good. Willie Hutchinson is taking on Ezra Taylor. So I mean, that's a pretty good matchup there. Speaking about good, right now I was telling you guys about a young undefeated middleweight that's going to be joining us, and he's with us right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Dante Kirkman joins us. What's up, kid?
What's up? Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, I appreciate you spending the time. And you're in a weight class that is traditionally one of the glamour ones, and I tell you, I'm going to get to that in a second. Let me start with the typical canned question that you probably heard a million times. What drew you to boxing, man? What made you decide to get into the sport of boxing?
So I've been boxing for 14 years. I'm 24. I started when I was 10. Even before I started, I was like watching boxing with my dad. My dad was an amateur boxer, and so he just kind of like introduced me to the sport more so as like a fan, just like watching like fighters on TV. Particularly, I think like a fight that like stood out to me when I was younger was like Floyd and Miguel Cotto, and I don't know why that fight just like really stuck with me, and then like I just like left the other sports I was doing for boxing.
Oh, that's cool. Did you have a favorite fighter that you like to watch?
Floyd.
You like Floyd?
Yeah.
So something that really impressed me about you is you graduated from Stanford this year. So congratulations on that. How did you balance? Because obviously you've been boxing for a long time. How did you balance working out, boxing, and you were a pro too by that point, and your college?
I mean, like, to be honest, it was tough as a pro and amateur. Like in the amateurs, the like USA Boxing national tournaments would be like aligned with like my finals week at school, so it just caused a lot of issues like with my professors and stuff. And then just day-to-day training as a pro was like pretty difficult. I would train early in the morning and then rush off to class, then go train again, then do homework and stuff, and just kind of fully be like immersed in that like student athlete lifestyle. But I mean, like it was a blessing. So like I have no complaints, and ever since like I graduated, I've just been full time, and I've just been able to take care of my body more, get more rest, and just work on recovering and fully just dedicating myself to the sport. So I've noticed like a lot of significant improvement.
You get trained by Eddie Croft. He was a former world title challenger. What's it like working with him?
Great. Like me and Eddie, he's my first and only coach. Like I just stepped foot in his gym, and he just fed my hunger for boxing. Like me and him are really similar in the way that like we both watch a lot of film. We just love the sport, and he just has a great eye. So like he's always just been able to instruct me in the ring, but then also just kind of like mentor my boxing journey and just provide his experience perspective.
I've always respected young fighters, and it sounds like you're heading along this path that, put their trust in their trainer, because even though you're right in the middle of the fight, obviously you're right in the ring fighting your opponent, a lot of times a trainer can see something that, despite you being right in the heat of battle, you don't see. And if they're able to communicate that to you, in between rounds, and you guys have that communication skill where you understand what each other's saying exactly, not just yesing each other to death, it could really be helpful. Is that something that you guys experience when you work together?
Absolutely. And his wife too, Casey Croft, she's big help to my team. She's a pro too. I think she has like 14 fights, and she like works with Snack and helps basically manages my like nutrition and just full on like workout routines and stuff like that, and just really prepares my camp. So like those two like working together and just like both providing pro fighter experience, and then also both of them knowing me for like most of my life really, like we're just all able to kind of like just work in sync. And Eddie knows that like if I see something, he knows what I'll see, and he knows where he'll kind of need to provide like his insight, and like I kind of know what Eddie sees, so I kind of just it's a really good relationship, just being able to know and trust him.
No, that's great. That's great. And then it's important to keep that relationship positive too. So your career right now, you're sitting at 6-0, 3 W's came by knockout, and at least on paper, your last fight seems to be the best win of your career, fighting against the guy with at least the best record, and you stopped him. Have you guys been working on stuff where it's increasing your power? Do you expect to get more knockouts now, or is it the typical, if the knockout comes, it comes, and you're working on other things?
It's gonna be your
smiling, so I must have touched something, right?
Yeah, I mean it's the typical if the knockout comes. I mean, like, to be honest, like my power really developed later in my amateur career, and really as a pro it was just more of like a getting comfortable thing, I think. Just kind of understanding like the minor differences, fighting with smaller gloves, no headgear, like where to place my shots. And so I think it was like more so of that than like my my power developing. I have like improved in my punching power, but like, to be honest, like I'm more so like I've had some fights, like I think my second fight, as soon as my opponent tasted my power, he was on the back foot the whole time. And so like that fight was 4-round unanimous decision, where I didn't get to showcase my power, because once I touched him like good, it was like he was gone from there. So I think it really depends on my opponent. It just happened that last fight I caught him in the second round. I won the first round, caught him in the second round with like a good counter, and just like went in for the finish.
It looks like you're tentatively scheduled again for December. Did that fight materialize?
Yeah, we're scheduled for December 11th. I believe we're scheduling an opponent today. Actually, I don't really know who, but yeah, we're just looking to stay active, and so this will be my last fight of 2025, and then we're just trying to stay active in the new year as well.
I opened up saying earlier, the middleweight division has always been a glamour division in the sport of boxing. And one thing that at least I noticed today when I look at the middleweights that are out there, there's a glaring absence of a star quality American middleweight in that mix. I think we're jonesing for that. Do you see yourself potentially filling that void and being that middleweight that we can all get behind and root for?
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm excited for just like the future of boxing, but particularly the middleweight division, just because like junior middleweight is also like a very active weight right now too. Like there's guys like Boots, Virgil Ortiz, like Fundora. And I believe by the time that I get to like the top 10 range, that those guys will have moved up at that point. So I'm just excited just for the future, and like God willing, I'll just take over that division.
What if no one ever saw you fight and they said, they asked you to describe your style, how would you describe your style?
Well, my style, again, it really depends on my opponent. I fight kind of adapting. I would say mostly probably similarly to Andre Ward. We're just kind of like what we're given, we'll kind of like work with that. Like, if our opponent moves, we'll go forward. If my opponent comes forward, I'll start moving. But like really, like I'm just comfortable going forward, back, left, or right, and just trying to fight technically smart, prioritizing my defense and my jab.
So you would consider yourself more of a reactive type fighter, react to what your opponent's dishing out?
Yeah, I would say so. Like in my last fight, for example, my opponent, all of his wins were by knockout. He had like some decent strength. So at the beginning, like I kind of paced around the ring for a little bit, then kind of like got my timing, and then was able to start walking him down and applying pressure from there. So it can really just change even within rounds or in a fight. So I just feel comfortable adapting anyway.
What do you feel that you need to work on the most?
Just really everything. Like like I've never really like satisfied really, like same like with me and Eddie. Like we obviously, like I have been like blessed to have this like opportunity of like my boxing career and like improving, but like really like everything can always like be better, and like that's the whole point of these like early fights, is to build me to like that like world championship stage. So that's really what I'm competing with, is just in myself what I imagine that like world championship quality is. So I just honestly improve in all areas. Like whenever I am in the gym, I'm shadow boxing, imagining opponents' various heights, stances, styles, whatever. And so I just try to just overall just improve my skill set.
No, that's great. It's all everything you're saying is great stuff. One of the things that in the past that old time boxers used to do way more than fighters of today is, like, let's say you had to get experience against a southpaw. They would fight a tall southpaw, a boxer, a puncher, a brawler, a short one, and they would fight a bunch of southpaws before they felt comfortable fighting a southpaw. Today, a lot of fighters, specifically young fighters, will say, "Okay, I need to fight a southpaw." They bring in one guy, he fights a southpaw. Okay, now I know how to fight southpaws. What's next? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that's just kind of like a funny commentary on the current state of boxing today. So yeah. I mean, it's funny. I mean, for me, I just take what I'm presented and just like what my team would like. So like again, I'm comfortable. I mean, I'm ambidextrous. I fought southpaw for like years, but like I fight orthodox now. So like I'm really comfortable with whatever.
Hey, so you've heard of Roberto Duran, right?
Yep.
Well, his daughter's in the chat room right now, Dayla, and she's got a question for you. She's asking, how do you see yourself after boxing? What plans do you have?
That's a good question. I'm honestly like, I think I would really want to become like a boxing analyst, just because like I really just love watching boxing. I love talking about boxing. And so I mean, hopefully, like I would even love like, I mean, I know the question is for after my career, but I'd even be willing like during, like if I fought early on a card, to go commentate on the same night or something like that. But so yeah, just really just trying to work within the sport of boxing, and then just trying to give back to the community where I can.
Speaking of that, and I swear Dayla didn't have any idea of my set of questions here, but I think this is a great segue.
Mhm.
I hear that you're planning to start a nonprofit organization to help struggling fighters. You got to tell us about that. What's your plan about that?
Yeah, so we are in the early stages, but it's basically like most fighters kind of don't educate themselves either like financially or to um, take the best steps in their careers. And also too, people, go all in, maybe have unrealistic expectations, don't know how like the pro boxing business works, or even on like on the amateur end. And like thankfully for me, like I've had experience like on the business end, like at Mayweather Promotions, where I was an intern, as well at USA Boxing on the amateur level, where I kind of just got to continue to like learn and see how things operate. So really just trying to make sure that like fighters are like taken care of, and then also well educated.
That's great. That's, I mean, the more fighters can help fighters, I think the better off, because as well as I do, it takes a special individual to get in that ring. And one of the things that you guys all possess is pride. And a lot of times, fighters that may need help may not get it because they don't want to let that weakness show. And by receiving it from other fighters, I think is a real positive step. And I love the idea. I think I applaud you for it, and I hope that it's successful. And you should keep me posted, because if I can help in any way, I certainly would.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
So do you have any idea who your opponent is for the 11th?
I think my coach is like literally deciding that like today. Like I'll probably after this talk to him about that. So I don't know to be honest, but yeah, I'm just ready for whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to see that you're busy in the ring. That's good, because there's no better experience than experience. so so that's good. Dante, listen, I appreciate your time. I know you're out on the West Coast, so it's early for you. It's different than when we get some people from across the pond. I'm calling them at this time, and they're like, I'm ready to be in my feety pajamas at 11 o'clock at night, and they're staying up to do interviews. But
Yeah.
listen, I'm going to be keeping an eye on you, and when you become a world champion, we'd love to have you back. Obviously before then, but I'd like to follow you along your career. Mario's been real good. I've known him for a long time, and I appreciate that he hooked us up. And I hope you can come back maybe as soon as right after your next fight and tell us how that went and all those things.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, anytime you reach out, we'd love to have you again. Okay.
Great.
All right, Dante, you be good, man. Good luck in your fight. I'm going to keep an eye on you.
Thank
you. All right. That's Dante Kirkman, I'm sorry. And he's 6-0 middleweight out of California, Stanford University grad this year, working, keeping his grades up, and of course, working out in boxing. He's scheduled real busy so far this year. He's scheduled to fight again in December. So we'll keep an eye on him. I almost put him on the spot and asked him, hey, when you become a world champion, you're going to come back on the show. And I'm going to expose somebody that we've already did that with, and he didn't come through. Danny Garcia. Yeah, the Danny Garcia. I had on the show at least 4 times on his way up. And Danny had the luxury of fighting on a lot of undercards of big cards. So he was always on the big stage. And at one point I said to him, I said, Danny, if you ever become a top dog, you become a world champion, you're gonna forget about little old us. He said, no, I'll be back. I promise. He never came back. So, but anyway, speaking of fights, there are some good fights. I just want to, one thing I do, I'm jumping all over the place here. One thing I do want to just close my opinion on is the DAZN and Turki Alalshikh situation. Look, it's in a way, it's unfair to kind of package Turki Alalshikh in this. He doesn't own DAZN. The problem is that he made the statement that there was going to be no more pay-per-views. And like I was saying to Coach Dave before, I think that if they thought the verbiage out correctly and stopped using the word pay-per-view and packaged it in with DAZN, our new subscription includes all the fights type of a thing, I don't think the backlash would have been as severe as they're receiving now. I mean, I'm getting emails and social media posts saying, they're canceling, they're not doing it. Here's the problem. They're the only game in town, boys and girls. I mean, DAZN is where it's at if you like boxing. I mean, look, if you love to watch boxing and you want to see it live and you want to see it all and you want to see it, basically unfold the way it should, DAZN is where it's at. I should be getting paid for this promotion, but it's just the truth. And you want to unify. You want to bring in the fans, not chase them away. I think their marketing department definitely made an error with that one. But look, I'm going to break down and give you my predictions on this fight this weekend. But just to keep you guys up to date, there's a couple of big fights coming up through the end of this year that I'm excited for. One obviously is next weekend, David Benavidez against Anthony Yarde. It's a big fight for Benavidez. We'll be breaking it down, giving you the predictions, the whole nine. Then on November 28th, now most of you know I'm a huge UK boxing fan. And so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the big names there. But for some of you that don't follow the English boxing scene, there's a light heavyweight, Ben Whitaker. He was an Olympian. He's very awkward. I hope he doesn't get clobbered at some point because of how awkward he fights. But anyway, he's going to be fighting on DAZN November 28th against Benjamin Gervasi. It's for a belt, but Ben Whitaker's a young fighter, so it's just a silver light heavyweight. But this is a guy you need to watch. Keep an eye on him. Give me your thoughts after that. I'll be breaking that fight down as it gets closer. And then, although I believe the PBC isn't worth a nickel, and they were the other group that promised us all this boxing, and they're just a bunch of has-beens, in my opinion. The Charlo brothers are frauds, and Errol Spence is finished, blah, blah, blah. But they have a decent card coming up, specifically for the super lightweight, an interim belt. Isaac Pitbull Cruz is going up against Lamont Roach on December 6th. I like that card. And also, Urslandi Lara is fighting Zanabek. I can never pronounce his name. Alma Kaluni, Gerald Cooney, no. But for the a unification middleweight championship, WBA, WBO, IBF titles will be on the line. The problem is it's a pay-per-view, and it's a shame. I mean, those two fights seem good. I mean, Lara's got to be 75 right now, but yeah, Dave's saying Whitaker's a tough fighter. I like him. Keep an eye on him. Yeah, he's tough. Very awkward. He had that one. What was it? A draw or a no contest where he kind of injured himself. But yeah, that's a good one. Bado Jack is taking on Noria McKillian for the WBC cruiserweight title. I'm looking forward to that fight. Been waiting to see McKillian get his shot, and Bado Jack has the cruiserweight belt. So I'll be looking forward to that one on December 13th. And then December 27th, Inoue, the Monsters, taking on David Picasso on that. But this weekend, we got a couple of decent fights. I'm going to break down the fight here, the Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. It's the rematch. But before I get to that, on the undercard is a fight that I think is going to steal the show. This fight is in the welterweight division, and it's putting Jack Catterall up against Eskal Usman. And Usman has got a record of 22 wins and 1 loss, 8 of his wins coming by knockout. This guy, it's the rankings on him are so weird. The computer ranks him at number 39. The WBO has him ranked at number 3. The WBA at number 9. The IBF at number 14. The Ring Ratings has him at number 10. And ESPN and the Billy C. Boxing ratings have him non-rated. He is 36 years old. He's fought 23 fights, 22-1, like I said. His only loss was to Harry Scarf, who was a 15-2 fighter in November of 2023. Since then, he's had 3 wins in a row, all against good opposition. Their combined record, 39 wins, 2 losses, no draws. And here's the thing. The 2 losses were all Josh Taylor. He's got a win over Josh Taylor. Yes, Josh Taylor. He's got wins over Chris Congo. He lost to Harry Scarf. He beat Owen Cooper, who was 10-0 at the time. He beat Ben Vaughn, which was 10-0 at the time. And he beat Josh Taylor, which was a huge win, which sets him up for this fight against Catterall. He's 36 years old, 5'10". He's an orthodox fighter. Now he steps in the ring. I got to be honest. One of my favorite welterweights in the world right now is Jack Catterall. And his record, 31 wins, 13 coming by knockout. He's got 2 losses, both controversial losses. In February 2022, he lost a 12-round split decision to Josh Taylor. And in February 2025, he lost a 12-round split decision to Arnold Barbosa Jr. Both extremely controversial, in my opinion. He squeaked out both of those wins, but it is what it is. The computer ranks him at number 5. The WBC's got him at number 7. The WBO's got him at number 8. The IBF has him at number 11. The WBA has him at number 7. Billy C. Boxing has him at number 5. And the Ring and ESPN ratings do not have him rated. He's got 33 professional fights, 10 more than Usman. He's also got 62 more rounds under his belt at 237 versus 175 for Usman. They're about the same with the knockout ratio. Jack Catterall's got 42%, which works out to be about 5% higher than Usman, who's sitting at 36%. He started his pro boxing career in 2012, which is 4 more years as a pro than Usman. He's a southpaw, so we got your classic southpaw against orthodox fighter. Jack Catterall is also 4 years younger. Usman's got the height advantage over him, 3-inch height advantage over Catterall. He's got some decent wins under his belt going back. His last 5 fights, or actually going back to 2022, he lost to Josh Taylor in that controversial fight I told you about. Then he came back with wins against Dara Foley, who was 22-4 at the time. He also beat Jorge Linares, 12-round decision against him. He righted the ship against Josh Taylor, winning a 12-round decision last year in May. He fought Regis Prograis and beat him in a 12-round decision in a very entertaining fight. Then he got his loss against Barbosa Jr. in February of this year. He came back in July, and he beat Harlem Eubank in a technical decision, unanimous decision due to a cut. And now he's stepping in the ring a couple months later against Usman. How do I see this fight going? Well, I tell you, Usman is a really live dog in this fight. It's pretty strange of how he's ranked all over the place. But Jack Catterall is a guy that just never stops coming at you. And, I like even Dax is saying in the chat room now, he was definitely robbed in those 2 split decision losses. He seems to have gotten better to me, especially his rematch with Josh Taylor. He looked really good. I was surprised at the Barbosa loss, but I thought he got robbed. I'm picking Jack Catterall all day in this fight, although I think it's going to be an entertaining one, and it's probably going to go to distance. Now, the next fight I'm going to break down is the main event, Conor Benn going up against Chris Eubank Jr., the rematch. Why are they having a rematch? I don't know why they're having a rematch. The first fight wasn't all that great, and, I doubt that this one's going to be all that great. It's the fact that there's a family feud between the two families. Both their fathers fought. These two guys genuinely don't like each other. Conor Benn, 23 wins, 1 loss, 14 of his wins coming by knockout. Here's the weird thing about Conor Benn. He's ranked by the computer in the super welterweight division, okay, or junior middleweight division. That was basically his last fight, right? But he's only ranked by the computer. The WBC and WBA, they don't have him ranked at the junior middleweight. They have him ranked at the welterweight at number 4 and number 6. WBC's got him at number 4. WBA's got him at number 6. But he hasn't fought at 147 since 2022, since April of 2022. He's not rated in the IBF, the WBO, the Ring Magazine, the Billy C Boxing ratings, or ESPN ratings in any weight class. He's got 24 fights under his belt, actually 14 less than his opponent. He's got 118 rounds, 61% KO ratio. He's 29 years old, which gives him the youth in this fight. He's 7 years younger than Chris Eubank Jr. He's an orthodox fighter at 5'8", which he's given up 3 inches in this fight. Prior to the first Eubank fight, he had won 6 fights in a row, 2 of them by knockout. And his first fight against Eubank was 7 months ago in April. The 3 judges all scored it the same, 116, 112. It was good to see him in the fight, but he wasn't in the fight. He hasn't been that busy. He's fought once. He fought 3 times in 2021, once in 22, once in 23, once in 24, and 25 will be he'll be fighting 2 times. His last fight was technically at middleweight because he weighed 156.5 pounds. So why he's ranked at both junior middleweight and junior middleweight and welterweight, God only knows. Theoretically, he should be ranked at middleweight since his last fight and this fight will be contested at a middleweight weight class. Now, Chris Eubank Jr., he's 35-3, 25 of his wins coming by knockout. He's ranked number 2 by the computer at middleweight. The WBC has him at number 3. The IBF has him at number 4. The WBA has him at number 4. The WBO does not have him ranked. The Ring Magazine has him ranked at number 3. ESPN has him ranked at number 3. And Billy C Boxing has him ranked at number 6, all in the middleweight division. He's got 128 rounds more of ring experience than Conor Benn at 246. He's got a higher knockout ratio at 71%. He's 7 years older. Like I said, he's got the 3-inch height advantage at 5'11". He's weighed 160 pounds since weighing 164 against Wanik Adaryan in 2021. So this is a guy that's been fighting at this weight class for a very long time. He, too, hasn't really been that active. In 2021, he fought once. In 22, he fought once. In 23, he fought once, in which he won 1 and lost 1. And he fought once in 24. And he, too, will be fighting his second fight in 2025. He's got some decent wins. Liam Smith, he got knocked out by, but he avenged that loss in his next fight when he knocked out Liam Smith. And then Camille Sorenza, he's got a knockout win. And then his last fight against Conor Benn, 12-round decision. How do I see this going? Pretty much the same way the first one did. I kind of be pulling for Conor Benn on this. I like the younger fighter. I always like the fighters that are challenging themselves. Conor Benn is moving up in weight. I just don't know if he's got the the skill set to beat Chris Eubank. I'm looking for Chris Eubank to win that fight as well. One last thing I want to touch on here. I haven't had a chance to read any of the. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, as far as my man John, I got to find out where that is. Maybe I'll go take the trip to see the release of Christy Martin's movie. Coach K is saying when Dante was talking about what to always work on, Coach says, always, you can always work on footwork. I love that my girl Dayla has asked Dante the question, and she liked the question. The kid is good. You know, that's what boxing needs, more guys like Dante Kirkman. Dax said that he felt that both of those fights were robbed too, and with Jack Carterall. Yeah, I just wanted to catch up on that. I know Joel was curious about my thoughts on that UFC gambling thing. You know, the thing I bring that up is because, you know, there is a parallel between what's going on there and what we're seeing that may happen in terms of a league in professional boxing, which I think it's great. I think it's good. I think one of the biggest problems with boxing is the fact that we have too many belts. Promoters feel that they can't promote a fight unless there's a belt, and the shenanigans that the fighters like Ortiz and Boots Ennis are trying to pull right now, and Moses Ituma would all go bye-bye if it was in a league similar to UFC, because like Coach Dave said, you know, with the professional fight league, you know, you don't know who you're fighting. You know, it's like the amateurs. You know, if anybody's listening to this show that really never paid attention to amateurs, well, that's how an amateur event usually goes as well. You know, you get there, you weigh in, and then hey, you're fighting this guy. He's here. He's your weight. Boom, you're in. You know, so very rarely do you get a chance to know who your opponent is until you get into finals and championships and stuff like that. Okay, in case you're new to the show, or in case you missed it, I've been doing what we call the Billy C rankings. Okay, I got a little fed up with all of the rankings that we have, the four major sanctioning bodies, and then the Ring magazine, then the ESPN, and you know, computer rankings, which I value the most. Specifically the IBO rankings. I like them. I think they're the most accurate of all, but the computer. But what I decided to do was to rank the divisions non-biased. There's no champions. I'm just going to be ranking who I think are the top 12 of each division. But here's the little twist. I'm only doing 9 divisions. I'm taking the 8 original divisions, and I added the cruiserweight division because I feel that the cruiserweight division is important because there's such a big jump between 200 pounds and some of the heavyweights now that, you know, step into the ring at 250 chiseled, you know. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm going through each weight class each week. And then once we're done with the final weight class of flyweights, then I'm going to be offering my rankings once a month. I'm going to update them all once a month. And whoever wants to get them, whoever wants me to email them in a PDF format, just drop me an email, Billy at talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com, or Bill at BillyCBoxing.com. Tell me you want to get put on the list, and we'll certainly do that. We got a pretty good list building up right now. And don't forget, you can go to BillyCBoxing.com and get all the links to where we are. We'd really appreciate it if you follow us and subscribe to us and do all those things. Okay, here we go. The Billy C's welterweight division. Now, keep in mind, this is the welterweight and junior middleweight, right? Welterweight and super middleweight. So these are a little more tricky than the heavyweight, cruiserweight, and light heavyweights because I'm combining the multiple weight classes to get these guys, and I'm trying to factor in the skill set for each one and put it in, assuming that they could be interchangeable between 147 and 154, which they are because of the way the weigh-ins are now. Remember, years ago, they used to have same-day weigh-ins. So 147 pounder was 147 pounds, well, roughly. You know, they might have gained a couple of pounds, but not 10 or 15 like they do today. All right, number one, my number one welterweight in the world today. Um, I, I put Virgil Ortiz. I say Virgil Ortiz because I think that he has a slightly tougher resume than Boots Ennis. I also have seen an improvement with him. He's a fighter that is still young, and he seems to be getting better and improving in the right areas. So he's my number one welterweight as of today. My number two is Boots Ennis. And, I'm giving him the props, even though I'm very vocal about his not so great resume, but there's no doubt that he possesses some skill. I just want to see him possess the same skill, or showcase the same skill, I should say, against better opposition. And now we start getting interesting, because number three is a guy that, is a talented fighter. He's a tough guy. Israel Madrimov is, and by the way, Ortiz, Ennis, and Madrimov, all USA fighters. This is where they're currently residing as I'm putting the country. And this is something I noticed with the welterweights. A lot of United States fighters here, which was not the case in some of the other divisions. So Madrimov is number three. Number four, Brian Norman, also a United States fighter. Number five, welterweight, I have Jack Catterall. I was talking about him today. I love this kid. I think he's underrated, and I think if you watch this fight this weekend, you'll see what I mean. That he's a good fighter. Number six, I had to put this guy in here, Sebastian Fundora. He's a tall guy. He's tough to fight. He's fought some decent fights. He does know how to use his height and reach, and his fights against Tim Tszyu, I had to give him credit for both of them. Number seven, Devin Haney. Listen, I had all I could to put him on this list. I'm sorry, but Devin Haney, to me, more than boxing skill comes to mind when I'm doing my rankings. And Devin Haney doesn't, he may have the skill to box and run, but he's shown that he can't really stand and fight, and he also showed that he's not an exciting fighter. He's not bringing much to the sport, but I have to recognize his skill set, and I have him at number seven. Now, remember, this is two divisions combined, so to speak. So number eight is Brandon Adams. I got to watch Brandon Adams up close when he was fighting in the Boxino tournament we did with LDL TV and Daniel Edward. We were there. We did some stuff, and Daniel Edward fought Brandon Adams, and Adams made it all the way to the final and ended up losing to Willie Monroe Jr. And I got to see this guy, and he's a pretty exciting fighter. He was actually fighting out of his weight class back when he was in the Boxino. And I believe he's fighting for his size, and he's doing well in this second part of his career, so to speak. I got him at number eight, another USA fighter. At number nine, Liam Paro, who out of Australia, tough fighter, deserves to be in the top 10 for sure. Another guy that I could have maybe flip-flopped with Paro is Rohan Polanco out of the Dominican Republic, another quality fighter. Number 11 is Abbas Bararu out of Germany. And rounding out my top 12 is Giovanni Santillan out of the United States. Those are my welterweight rankings. So, again, if you're interested in getting put on the list, just do that. Give me an email, Bill at BillyCBoxing.com or Billy at TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. So as far as some final thoughts here, Ortiz and Boots Ennis, I really believe that these guys should get it on. The fight should happen now. There's no marination needed. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems that we have in the sport today. Some other final thoughts is, I know there's a lot of split opinions about the modifications to the Ali Act and the fact that a league could be started and potentially kicking, some of the sanctioning bodies. And remember, this is all by choice. This isn't something that would be getting rid of them. The boxers would have a choice. So if this league did ever materialize, like I said earlier, It would have to start, with a youth movement, which would be right out of the gate, would be an infusion of boxing talent, that we could weed through, So I think it's good. I'm supportive of it. I'd like to see it happen. I don't like what I see with the sanctioning bodies. I don't like seeing rankings where you have a guy ranked at the number 1 position, a guy ranked at number 2, then nobody ranked, not rated for number 3 and 4, but yet you have 5, 6, 7, and 8 when you conceivably should move them up. So I'm a little hung up on that. And my final thoughts on DAZN. Like I said, look, they sewed up the sport of boxing. Boxing has a tendency to follow the money and be lazy. And what I mean by that is, promoters will follow the money. That's why everybody ran over to Saudi Arabia, because Turki Alalshikh was shelling out some coin, right? And I've always said, you guys heard me say this on the show, if he decides to walk away, we're going to have a void, because all of a sudden these promoters are going to be like, oh, what do you mean? And some of these commissions make it very hard for club shows to take place. And the fighters make it hard for club shows to take place because of the demands and the fact that they don't want to fight anybody and nobody wants to take any risks and all these things. And the backbone of the sport of boxing is the club shows, because without the club shows, without these grassroots promoters, and, recently we've had Jimmy Birchfield on, who in my opinion is, the best definition of a grassroots promoter. We had Bobby Hitz on not too long ago. And also I got to reach out to Joe DeGuardi. I mean, those are the 3 grassroots promoters that pop right into my head. And they're all fairly close. I mean, well, Hitz is in Chicago, but, you need those fights. You need those club shows. Without them, I just don't see how boxing can survive. You just, that's why we're seeing this infusion of fighters from other countries that you've never heard of that have all these records. And you realize that, they weren't fighting very good opponents. So, listen, we got so much good stuff planned moving forward. We got guests booked all the way through the year. We're already into 2026 with different guests that are coming on, different array of guests. I hope we keep your interest going. And remember, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, things you want to talk about, or things you want me to talk about, just drop me an email. Billy at talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com, or Bill at Billy C Boxing, or reach me on all the socials. We have a couple of different Facebook pages, an X account. If you go to Billy C Boxing, you can find all those links, follow us, subscribe to us, communicate. I'm finally up to speed on social media, so I look forward to that. But anyway, boys and girls, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.